up on the beaches of Texas. It's an ongoing battle that we fight. And as I think back in history of the Ixtapa well in Mexico, it was years after that blowout that the final effects were determined, and tar balls were washing up for a great deal of time. I've got some concern with some of the time limits and cutoffs in this proposed bill. How sure are we in the science that there isn't just some huge plume there waiting in the Gulf, waiting to wash up somewhere? And, is there a time certain that we're going to say, all right, well, we pretty much got this handled?
Thank you. That's a very good question. I don't think there's a time certain. We are, under the damage assessment process, our intent is to study this until we are forced to bring a claim in a court. The United States government has filed a suit last December, and now we're on a court schedule for when we'll have to present our claim. Certainly we'll study as much as we can and understand the impacts up to that point. But even after that, whether it's a court settlement, a settlement or a court order, we would, again, as part of our restoration plan, we would want to have monitoring to see that there aren't latent impacts that we see sometime down the road that, in the settlement context, we would look at a reopener clause, Exxon Valdez, that's something they're going through right now. So we are very concerned with your point that we need to understand what's happened over time, the full length of time where there could be impacts, and get the public the restoration for those impacts.
And I guess specifically I'm concerned in this act, if we're not careful in setting cutoff dates and deadlines, we're not going to be able to address the allocation of those resources properly. Let me go on and ask you another kind of broad national significance question on R&D and how this is handled. The way I look at it, I'm afraid we're going to be setting up a bureaucracy. I think we've already got 7 or 8 agencies involved in this, as well as the individual states. So I guess my first question would be, do you have any suggestions on minimizing that bureaucracy and increasing the efficiency of how this is dealt with?
So with respect to the natural resource damages, we are working as a larger group. I mean, we have a couple of federal interests. We're working with all of the states, the 5 Gulf Coast states. And, I have to say, I think it's one of the successes of what we've done to date is that we have worked together. We have a trustee council that's shepherding us through the decisions that we need to make, working through the early restoration process. But you're right, it is a number of agencies and people that we have to coordinate. But I think we've done well with respect to the broader damage assessment process. I think, you asked about research and development. Our office, our particular office, the Office of Response and Restoration, would like to have some sustained, focused effort on some of our oil spill response and damage assessment needs. And so if that focuses for our particular needs, we're supportive of that. Going through the Coast Guard may be another way of getting some of this important research done.
Oh, I see I'm out of time. Thank you very much.
Representative Sutherland, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like, if I could, to ask that 3 different reports from federal task forces be submitted into the record.
So ordered.
Great. Thank you very much. One of the things, as a member, I live in Panama City, Florida. So this morning, Representative Miller sat on the panel to talk about the interests of Florida. But I was fortunate enough to work with our spearhead, Mr. Scalise, here in the forming of this. And I had clearly great concerns. But not only do I feel that we have the responsibility to legislate here regarding this incident, the Deepwater Horizon, I lived through it because my community is on the Gulf of Mexico, and I have 9 coastal counties. One of the things that I want to make sure